I'm going to talk to you today about the PK-12 Strategic Vision Framework. This is North Dakota's, and you'll get copies of all these PowerPoints, so you don't need to feverishly take notes, and if you don't already have them, you already do. Perfect. So about 7 years ago now, COVID took about 2 years of my life that we'll never get back. About 7 years ago now, I realized that I was 3 years into the job, and I realized that there's lots of people involved in education. There's lots of state agencies that are created and funded by our legislature and our state taxpayers to work on education. And there's 174 school districts in our state that are focused on student achievement. And we were all doing really great things. We have great partners like School Boards Association, Council of Educational Leaders, Teachers Indy United, our regional education agencies, all sorts of great people pushing, working really, really hard to help our students succeed, doing great things, but we weren't organized. We were not at all cohesive. It was scattershot. Everybody was doing great things, but we were just trying to do what we could. Nobody was keeping track of how well we were doing. And no one was pushing the flywheel in that same direction. And we thought, so if we can get all of us together, just by voluntary mechanisms, just saying, yes, I want to be part of establishing this. We got over 20 entities that are engaged in schools in some way to come together and work for a year and a half and use data to come up with a strategic framework, strategic vision framework. This is not DPI's vision. This is not Career and Technical Education's vision. It's not School Boards Association vision. It's not our REA's vision. It's not our Teachers Licensing Board vision. It's North Dakota's vision. The governor's office was also part of this group. We came up with the idea, the vision of all students will graduate choice ready with the knowledge, skills, and disposition to be successful. We will make progress toward this vision by achieving these long-term outcomes for students. Increase students who enter kindergarten prepared to learn, and increase the number of kindergarten classrooms that meet the needs of every learner. So when we say that we got to do whatever we can to partner with our folks at the Department of Human Services and our child care providers and our families. We've got to do whatever we can to make sure that when that child turns 5, they have what they need and they're ready to learn. The second part of that sentence says, but also, we recognize that not every child is going to grow up in a home rich with books, in a home rich with conversation, in a home with 2 parents, in a home with parents that might be working shift work because they're a energy provider or a first responder. So we also need to commit to the fact that every one of our classrooms will be resourced to meet every learner where they are, regardless if they came from a rich literacy background at home or had very few books read to them. So that's what that means. We need to increase the students who demonstrate reading proficiency by 3rd grade. There's that saying, from kindergarten or preschool to 3rd grade, you learn to read, and 4th grade on, you read to learn. If you don't know how to read by the end of 3rd grade, you will struggle. You're going to struggle. So that's what we need to do. Right now, we'll get into some of the statistics, but I'll do a spoiler alert. Right now, only 42% of our 3rd graders can read on grade level in 3rd grade. That's one thing that we've noticed. We've been doing a lot of surveys, and Assistant Superintendent Lori Matzke pointed out this presentation. Most parents think their children are doing really, really well. Most parents believe that, and I did as well, most parents, families, don't realize that your child, I want you to think about if any of you have children or grandchildren. Of 10 students in your loved one's 3rd grade or 4th grade classroom, is your son or daughter, your granddaughter or grandson, are they one of the 4 or are they one of the 6? And which one of their friends is one of the 6? So we needed to make that a priority. This is discouraging, but that's why I'm really glad to see you here today, because I need to tell you that you can make a difference. You will make a difference in making that statistic different. Increase students who meet expected learning gains each year. So what that means is if a child comes into 5th grade reading at a 2nd grade level, that child deserves to make at least 1 year of learning gain. At least 1 year. If that child enters 5th grade and is reading at an 8th grade level, that child also deserves to make at least 1 year of learning gains. So we need to make sure that each of our students, each of our children, they may not be at grade level, they may not be where they're supposed to be as a 4th grader or an 8th grader, but our schools deserve to give to them at least 1 year of learning. The programs that you have in your school have to be dedicated to making sure that they have the opportunity to experience 1 year of learning. We want to increase students who engage in learning. So I want to tell you that we have measurements for all of these, and I'll talk about that later this afternoon. We can measure all of these things. We used to measure attendance because that was easy to measure. But schools can't do a lot about attendance. So this group got together that created our ESSA plan, and Assistant Superintendent Maskey will talk about that in a bit, or Choice Ready. We got together and said, we're not going to measure attendance anymore. We're going to measure engagement. Because schools do have the ability, the responsibility, to make sure that when kids are in school that they're engaged. And when kids are engaged in their learning, guess what happens to attendance? It increases. So let's measure something we can control, measure something we can have an impact on, and it will actually help with attendance as well. So that's one of our other outcomes. We want to increase students who graduate Choice Ready. You'll learn all about what Choice Ready is. It's ready for post-secondary, workforce, or military. That's Choice Ready. But I always say, we have to make them ready for whatever they choose to do after high school, and provide them the ability to change their mind. I'll tell a little story about that since I'm not doing Choice Ready. So I have 3 sons. They're 33, my oldest is 33. I have twin sons that'll be 29 a week from tomorrow. And they're all very, very, very different. Very, very different. My oldest is a liberal arts major. He got a bachelor's degree, wait for it, in English literature. And I went, get a library card. Don't pay $40,000 for that. But he went on to get his MBA, and is actually now doing work in cybersecurity. And so, or work to be in cybersecurity. So that's my liberal arts kid. Then the twins, one is very science, the youngest of the twins, very, very science-centric. Advanced math, advanced science, is a speech-language pathologist with Stanford, is the lead speech-language pathologist with Stanford Hospital here in Bismarck. The middle twin, or the middle son, he was my rodeoer, CTE, lots and lots of hands-on work application, definitely work ready. You can tell, you can imagine which one of those twins, though, everybody thought was smart, right? The advanced placement kid, the science, all of those. Both the twins got the same ACT score, which was pretty high. So that proved to me that you can learn English, math, and science, and communication in those CTE courses. He just learned it differently, but he learned it. So, but that CTE kid, he didn't like school. I mean, he didn't like what school was. He didn't like sitting in that classroom, sitting in that seat, writing papers, reading books that were assigned to him. He reads more than any of us in our family, but he didn't like to do that type of work. So he was never going to college. Never, 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 never going to college. And so I said, well, you need to go and get something. And so we went to Bismarck State College, and he decided to become a lineman through their line worker program. Great program. He ended up because his mom's an educator, I said, you need to get an associate's degree too, just in case you change your mind. He's like, I'm never changing my mind. I'm never changing my mind. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. And because his mother's more bullheaded than he is, but barely, because he's really bullheaded, I said, yes, you're going to get that associate's degree because you need to be prepared to change your mind. And, oops. So he finishes at Bismarck State College, and guess what? He realized that line workers are in most demand when it's 20 below and there's freezing rain and he's supposed to be climbing poles full of electricity. He didn't want to do that. He changed his mind. But he was choice ready. He was choice ready. Because he had that associate's degree, he was able to go on. And so that's what we mean by choice ready. Don't let a kid say, I'm never going to take CTE because I'm going to college and I'm going to be a doctor. Or I'm going to be a linguist, or whatever it is. Kids change their mind. Adults change their mind. So our responsibility as a school system in North Dakota needs to be that we have them ready, not in just one area. Don't let a kid convince you that they don't need to take other courses to round them out, that they're going to just go to college and get a PhD. Don't let a kid just tell you that they're never going to go to college and they're only going to be a lineman. Our responsibility is to say, that's fine. If that's what you do and you want to change your mind, our job is to graduate you choice ready. So if you change your mind, you're ready. So that's choice ready. The last one is reduce disparity in achievement for students with disabilities, students in poverty, and Native American students. By looking at the data, we saw that the largest gap in our student achievement was students in poverty and Native American students. So previously, prior to this year, it was just students living in poverty and Native American students. Since the pandemic, we looked at the data again, and the largest gap in achievement is our students with disabilities, students in poverty, and Native American students compared to all. We'll take a look at the data a little bit more this afternoon. So we will drive improvement on these outcomes by focusing on these strategic themes, these efforts. Quality early childhood experiences. That used to say quality early childhood education. It now says experiences for a very important reason. We are partnering with the Department of Human Services. We are partnering with our family service-oriented organizations. This isn't all about education. They don't need to be in preschool. They just need to be in quality environments. Whether that's at home with a family member, whether it's in a family-placed childcare, daycare, whether it's a childcare center, or whether it's a preschool. We just need to care about that wherever those kids are, 0 to 5, that it's a quality-rich environment. Because 95% of the brain is developed by the time they're 5 years old. When we get them in our public school system, 95%, we've got 5% left to work with as far as the brain growth and bend rates. And that is pretty recent information. I'd say it's getting better and better, but it's because of the advancement in medical technology that we're able to see that, yeah, when we get them at 5 years old, we got 5% left. So there's a lot of times where we have to undo a lot of what they've learned before we can have them learn what they need to learn in school. So if we don't have to undo any learning, but make sure that the first 95% is learned in just really stimulating ways, that's why we've chosen early childhood experiences. Support for safe and healthy behaviors. You're hearing a lot about mental health, both of teachers and students. You'll hear a lot about behavioral health. Again, we partner with our Department of Human Services and our medical providers because behavioral health, mental health is health. It's health. We should stop talking about them separately. Physical health and mental health. We need medical providers. We need people that have gone to school 4, 6, 8, 10 years to become experts in behavioral health and mental health. Teachers have gone to school for 4, 6, 8, 10 years to learn how to be better instructional strategists, to become better reading teachers. They don't know a lot about behavioral health and mental health, and we should stay in our swim lane, but we should absolutely open our schools and reach out to our health partners to help us help our students instead. So that's what that means. Career awareness, exploration, and development. We used to just say career awareness, or it was just career development. We've broken that out by saying career awareness, exploration, and development. Career awareness is absolutely K through 6 or K through 5, 100% elementary. You can't work in school to become a lawyer, a striper, a highway striper. I'll tell you a story about that too. Or a coder, or a computer scientist, or a nurse, unless you know that that job exists. So elementary school needs to expose our kids to as many occupations as we possibly can. Let them know about it. Middle school is when they can explore. That's why you take shop and facts. You get to explore and try out some things. After school programs like Legos or coding. High school and college is where career development is. Start taking the right classes. If you want to be an engineer, start taking the right classes to get you ready to be an engineer. To be successful your first year of college to be an engineer. So the career awareness, there was Touch a Truck Day. Do any of your communities have Touch a Truck? So Mandan's Touch a Truck was happening in Mandan Main Street, and it's just where a whole bunch of businesses, any business, whether it be road construction or commercial construction or farming, firemen, anything that has a truck, they close off Main Street and they bring all of these trucks down, and kids come with their moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, any family member, and they're crawling in trucks and they're pushing levers and they're doing all sorts of things. KXMB interviewed this kid, fourth grader probably, I'm guessing, and he said, just this cherub face, just roly-poly, just beautiful blue eyes, gets on the camera, and he goes, "This is the best day of my life. I never knew there was a job like this." And I cried, and it brought tears to my eyes, because, I'm stereotyping a little bit, but I'm thinking, that Touch a Truck helped me do my job better as a state superintendent. That kid has a reason now. And he had gotten off of the striper. It was just one of those machines that does the white and yellow lines. And he'd seen those. I mean, he knew what those were by riding in a vehicle with his family. He knew that, but he didn't know that it was actually a machine that got to do that on roads. And it was the best day of his life. So now when teachers are able to tap into that and say, you know what? Those kids, those companies, they want somebody that's going to be able to read and write and have common sense and be able to work well with others. You got to work on this because you want to be a striper, right? So that's the career awareness. That's why it made my job easier. It would make my job easier as a teacher. That's the career awareness part. The exploration is where you start to just actually, dabble around, take some things that you like, and then the development. Quality education personnel. We need to invest in our quality education personnel. And the team that put this together chose the two words education personnel very, very deliberately. That means from the crosswalk guard, the school bus driver, the lunchroom supervisor, all the way up to you guys. All the way up to you. So when we talk about education personnel, every one of these groups that came together said we need to, if our job is to work with school board members, Alexis Baxley and her team said, we've got to invest in quality education personnel. That's why she puts on the events that she does, the lunch and learns that you'll learn more about. That's why the Teachers Association and the state of North Dakota invests. That's why you'll invest in your teachers. That's why the Superintendent's Association invests. We all as a state have got to invest from lunchroom supervisor all the way up to board president in a whole system education investment. And quality student-centered instruction. Used to be where time was the constant. You finished 13 years of school, kindergarten through 12th grade, and you likely graduated. Now we need learning to be the constant. Let's take that, let's said differently. Let's take a semester of algebra. You have 25 kids in a classroom. You're moving the class along. You have a chapter test this week, a chapter test next week, unit test at the end of the month, move on to the next, boom, 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 end of the semester. You see these 25 kids, some are right here, some are here, some are here, some are here. They're not going to, but everybody moves on. First semester's done. That's time is the constant. What we need is learning as the constant. That some of those kids of the 25 probably walked in at that classroom day one on algebra and were here already. They are going to be able to finish what they needed to learn in that first semester of the coursework a lot quicker. This kid down here, he may take a semester in 3 weeks. Let's not just stop his or her learning because the semester is over. Let's find a way to make sure that we complete that learning as they've moved to the next semester. So we are striving for a quality student-centered instruction instead of the model of the bells. And you guys know why those school bells were invented, right? It was to train them for the factory work. It was to get them used to switching tasks when the next whistle went off. How many of your students work in factories or will work in factories? How many of you go to your job, sit down at your desk, whether there's, NDSU extension agent, wherever you may work, accounting office, how many of you sit down and say, I'm going to do 50 minutes of math, okay? Now I'm going to do 50 minutes of reading, and now I'm going to do 50 minutes of writing, and now I'm going to go out in the field and take some water samples and do science. But I'm not going to write, read, or do math while I'm just going to take water samples. None of us. None of us separate it that way. That first hour at our job, we're doing reading, writing, we have to do some math. If you are at the extension service, you're out collecting soil samples as you're doing math. So that's what we're striving for in North Dakota, and that's what this means. I promise the rest of the slides will go more quickly. Right direction, huh? Yep. That's it. Lori, you are up. Any questions for me on any of that choice grid? Before we move on.